What up? What up? Welcome to another episode of 94 Feet with Coach JT. Do me a favor, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a like. Let me know what you think as I continue to grow this podcast and jump into 2024 with some new guests, some dope topics, and just some dope information. Let me get into this bio real quick. As you can see, I am here live on campus at Sac State University. My guest today grew up in county town of McLeod and was raised alongside his identical twin, Joshua as well, also who was a Sac State alumnus in a large foster home. While in high school, he attended American Legion California Boys State summer program at Sac State. Few quotes from my guest. I just had a wonderful experience. I got to see the campus. After that, there was no other institution on his radar. He also was a highly engaged student leader during his time at Sac State, serving as the Associated Students, Inc., as a board member and several vice president positions. Also, he was a guest as far as lectures at Sac State, Hornet football games this season. He says Sac State is home base. He's emphasized his enthusiasm for his new job as the president of Sac State, none other than Dr. Luke Wood. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good, and thank you for having me.
Man, thanks for coming. Thanks for taking time out the schedule, man. I know it's been busy. Happy New Year to you, too. Hopefully the holidays is great to you and your family as well. That was very brief, right? We're just going to get into this, too, though. But for those that may know you and may not know you, though, I definitely want to start kind of, and we talked about offline, about where you come from upbringing. We have some similar information shared about that. My part of the family is up in your neck of the woods, but for those who may not know you, let's tell me about yourself and just where you're from.
Yeah, so I was born when my mom was in prison. So me and my twin brother were. And so then we went immediately, became wards of the court, went into foster care. And then we started staying with this foster family that eventually adopted us, but we grew up in a foster home. So they decided to move up to far northern California. When I say far northern, I mean like you're basically in Oregon, but you're still in California.
Yeah.
So that's McLeod, Mount Shasta, Weed, Dunsmuir, Wairika, Etna, and all these tiny towns. So the town I grew up in is called McLeod. 1,600 people in the middle of nowhere, high school of 100 kids at the base of Mount Shasta. Like most of the towns up there, former logging town. So basically, our high school mascot, for example, was the loggers. You go down to Bernie, theirs was the lumberjack. You go up the road to Southern Oregon, they're the axemen. So you get the idea. It's
everything
logging
is wood
country.
Based. Mills, right? Because I think the mills right up that way too, right? All the sawmills, stuff like that. Right?
Yep. So like Weed was a logging town too. So that's where your family's from. That's the same area. So anytime I meet someone from any of those towns, they're family because you grew up in a very unique experience in a very unique environment.
Right. So, and you jumped right into it too, having moms you got jumped into the system based upon where mom was at the time. At what age, man, did you kind of figure out that she was not present there in the home with you guys consistently, or you and your brother? Because I mean, shout out to the twins. I got a twin sister, twin brother, so that you rely on each other early, right? Like that becomes something that you rely on your backbone. But at what age did you kind of conceptualize and figure out like, oh wait, mom is not here?
Yeah. So I mean, growing up in a home where you know your foster parents and adopted parents are white and you're black and your brothers and sisters are all kinds of different things.
Right.
You know pretty early on like
it's different.
Yeah, it's different. And so growing up in McLeod is very homogenous town, very white town. Mostly Italian, and it was like any other place in America, particularly growing up in the 80s and 90s. It was a racist place. Wonderful community, right? So I don't want to ever paint it in a negative light, other than to say it's just like any other place in America where you're going to deal with that. So for me, when I'm moving into town with this very diverse family, it was they used to call us the UN, right? Because my brothers and sisters are white, black, Mexican, Pacific Islander. I have a sister who has spina bifida who's in a wheelchair, another sister with a cognitive impairment. And so we're very diverse family in a very non-diverse environment.
Right.
And so it was definitely like an oppositional experience growing up. Like, as a kid, like other kids weren't necessarily allowed to hang with us, spend time with us. Like if they did, that would be something that their parents wouldn't approve, right? So I remember even being young saying, hey, talking to a friend, I'm going to go over to your house to play. And like, oh, you're not allowed to come to my house because being black, being a foster kid, but all the experiences in school were unique, right? So Like I had an amazing teacher in kindergarten who I'm still connected with to this day, right? Great woman. Yeah, Mrs. DeBortley. And then, first grade, second grade, third grade, it's back and forth. Sometimes you have a good experience, sometimes you don't. But when you're in a small environment and you're viewed as an other, it's unique. And so what I tell a lot of people is the reason I got into some of the research I do as a scholar is what happened when I was in 5th grade. So I had this teacher who didn't view me as someone who was intelligent, didn't view me as someone who was capable or could do it, but she viewed me as nothing more than a problem, a black male foster kid. And so in that grade, my twin brother, he was suspended 24 times, and I was suspended 42 times by the same teacher.
Wow.
And it was an experience where like I was constantly being targeted, singled out, treated differently than the other kids. And I went from like really kind of liking school in general to hating school and viewing it as a place where I didn't want to be. And it really, I was fortunate that the following year something happened that if it hadn't happened that following year, I don't know where I would be or what I would be doing. But I went from having that experience with that teacher to the next year having Mr. G, who is an amazing teacher. Total opposite. Where she saw a problem, he saw a future. Where she saw someone who didn't care about school, he saw someone who had talent, who liked to write, who was interested in school. And so he'd spend all this time with me, like mentoring me, working with me. He learned that I like to write. And so he would like send me to these writing competitions, and I would like write poems and short stories. And he just invested in me. And to me, it's like the example of what, like the continuum of what you can experience in school. You can have some people who are going to view you with distrust, disdain, and disregard. And you can have some people who are going to extol your brilliance, your dignity, and your morality. And I had the back-to-back experience with that. And I really credit that experience for doing what I'm doing today. And I tell this to the students because I think it's important to say, I think the good experiences in your life, and sometimes even more so the bad ones, they perfectly prepare you for your next step in your life. And I would not be in this role, I would not be the scholar that I've been able to become if it hadn't been for those experiences.
Yeah, definitely. I could definitely agree to that, man. Even though she was impactful, it was in a different way. But yeah, like I said, she probably knows now she propelled you, and then with the assist of him to be you where you are, man. That's something that it's not, like I said, it doesn't make you I mean, it changes you, but it helps you get there, but it doesn't keep you in that spot, man. Because you could have easily made a choice to not do anything. Yeah. But no, again, shout out to the other teacher too, putting that positive vibe in the air, giving the young man some goals is what we need, especially as black males, man. We need. It's good to have, yes, our black women, our women and teachers and women in general are good, but when it comes from another brother or a male, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Like, especially when you're younger. Like, I had a music teacher, shout out to Mr. Smooth, James Smooth, one of the only black music teachers in Sacramento. He was a 6'6" teacher, and I was like, but hey, JT, get back here. And I was like, man, he was in, I ran into him the first time about 2 months ago. So I haven't seen him in 15 years probably.
Really?
He probably a little older, didn't remember much, but I'll never forget the guy. He's a 6'5" black teacher. I'm the only black kid in the band at the time playing the percussion, but it was impactful, and that kept me going. So I definitely know about that for sure. Those memories. But you talked about adversity already. Yeah. Like, man, that's a lot. I mean, again, my auntie and godmother, they've had, they use their service to have foster kids too, to help build. They had that home, provide that home, but we were there as like family. But I was like, why do you keep getting these kids in the house, like auntie? But their purpose was to do that. How much of was it something? I'm sure you had certain nice days where it was real tough in the situations, but also what about the stability or anything come out of it to where you were grateful, extra thankful for? Because I know in that times it can be up and down, but I do know some homes are productive. They try to. How was your situation growing up like that?
Yeah, so my parents did foster care for many years. They had over 300 children in the home. So I'm just one group among many groups that had experience in that home, and I would say that for me, my experience was very positive, and now that doesn't mean it was perfect.
True.
There's a difference between being positive and being perfect, right?
Yep.
So it was positive in that I felt like I had a mother and a father who cared about me and who were invested in me, and at the same time, they had to spread their time with all these other kids who were in the home. There was like 14 of us at any given time, and not only that, but the other challenge is that I'm African American, they're white. They don't have any idea. So when I'm coming home and I'm like, yeah, this person just called me the N-word or a cottonhead or a niglet, or that's like, and that wasn't like a random experience. It was every single day I was being called that.
That's
Every
tough.
single day me and my brother were being like jumped by the same group of boys for years. And they didn't know how to handle it because they didn't have that lens.
That
So in their
relatability
mind,
factor, right, wasn't there, right? They
yeah, it
couldn't relate.
wasn't. It wasn't. And in my dad's mind, it was like, oh well, boys will be boys. It's like, no, this is different, right? But at the same time, those experiences, they make you stronger. I had good teachers and I had bad teachers. I had ones that invested in me and I had ones that wanted to do nothing but tear me down. And I'd always wanted though to find my parents. And it wasn't, I always ask my family, like, hey, I'd like to be able to know who they are, because when you're in a foster home like that, some people, they know who their families are, some people they don't.
True.
And I was one. We were in foster care. Again, I mentioned our mother. She was in prison. She had the opportunity to come get us multiple times. Would set up meetings and would then not show. Set up meetings and then not show. Set up meetings and not show. And she struggled with mental health. Oh man,
I know. I see my friend. I call them family now. Brothers or sisters I had through the foster care. I kind of foresaw they go through that sometimes, like disappointed, let down, excited, or someone go, I know she's not even coming. I'm not going.
Man, so I was so young when that happened.
Okay.
I don't remember it, but what I do remember is then talking about it as I got older and asking, well, what happened? And then, my parents just trying to be authentic and transparent, not lying to lie to me and being like, well, listen, your biological mom, she struggled with mental health. She struggled with drugs, you were fortunate that she was in prison or else you would not be here. And at the same time, there were challenges with that. And so then, hearing that and then growing up, and then you think to yourself, and it was like this weight, a physical weight that was on me, where I was like, what kind of mother gives up her kids who doesn't want her own kids? And I couldn't understand that. I understand it now. But as a kid growing up in a challenging environment, that's very, very difficult to understand. And so I would always ask my mom, okay, can you give me information on her? And, they weren't able to, because they didn't have very much other than when we had first been placed with them, the social worker had handed them a file to bring to another room, and it was a closed file, but she opened it just to see and get some information. So the only thing that I knew is that my name was Ariel. That was my birth name. And my brother's name was Gabriel. That's his birth name. And that our mother, had a, PhD, a terminal degree in psychology, Black woman, very, very intelligent. Almost think about the movie Beautiful Mind. Everybody, even in the paperwork, it said that the social worker said is the most intelligent person I have ever met in my life. But intelligence doesn't necessarily translate to being able to navigate struggles like mental health and struggles like drugs. And so when came my 18th birthday, they gave me more information, which was the deal that we had. And then that set me on a journey to try to find them. And I didn't find them until I came to Sac State when I was a student.
Wow. And I was actually going to ask, where did the writing and education stuff come from? But you just said she was already on it.
Yeah.
It was in there somewhere.
Yeah.
It was already in there. I was going to say, where'd that come from? How did that? But you just said, so that passion for learning at an early age, writing, has been somewhat in you without even knowing it, right? Yeah. But what point did you really start pursuing that? Like, oh, I love this stuff. We find our niches. We find through sports, through activities or something like that. But we talked about this earlier before the show about pursuing higher education. Some people shy away from it. Some people go to it or just know, like, this is my path. When did you kind of figure out or start, like, what? I like this, or this is something I want to do, or I want to pursue more. What was those driving factors for that?
Well, I think because it was a kind of a challenging environment to grow up in, school became one of the safe places I had. That's why that 5th grade experience was so jarring. But I really would say that it was that 6th grade teacher, man. Man, he made me feel like I could do anything. And even, early on, I was saying, I'm going to go to college. I was in an environment where nobody went to college. I was in an environment where none of my family members that I was growing up with, their families had went to college. My foster parents, now adopted parents, they never went to college. But in my mind, I was like, I'm going to college. So it was this deep desire within to create a better life for myself and for others who I cared about. And then I got to high school and I had some really cool teachers. I actually just got to see several of them, Mr. McKelly, and several others, Mr. Bringle, and basically I had this opportunity to participate in these competitions where I would do public speaking. And so I competed in public speaking as a competition throughout all of high school. But to have a teacher who would like, okay, we're gonna pull you out of class today, and we're gonna spend the next 20 minutes of you speaking to me and me critiquing you, and then tomorrow back at the same thing. Yeah. I had tons of reps. Early. Yeah. So you think I'd be better at it than I am?
That's good. No, I'm making it happen, man. That's definitely dope. But shout out to the teachers that just invest, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as we know, education, teaching, purposes, professional, whatever it is. Some people will do it as a job, some people do it as a passion because they want to help, And of course, you run something across that does it for passion and want to help kids, and that's definitely a big plus to have if everybody's blessed to get those type of settings. Man, just talking about it's a lot of adversity already before you even get to high school, college type atmospheres. And what state though? Coming out of a high school out there, went to high school out there too. At what point in time where it's like after high school was a senior year, did you leave immediately? Did you go to JC? What was that path like to higher education, knowing that I'm going to college, but now having to choose a college or having to go somewhere else?
Yeah, so there was this one brother. There wasn't a lot of brothers up there, right? So I was happy to see one. And he basically came into these kind of like conversations about college with all the students. And
now they may be labeled as college or career success people, right?
Yeah. Back then,
you didn't know the West, right? Yeah, for sure.
I just remember he worked for the UC, but he didn't really care about me necessarily going to a UC. He wanted me to go to a place that was going to be a good fit for me. So that's how you knew. Like I felt like fit's important. So junior year, if you would have asked me, I was going to go to a UC. This is back before you could get above a 4.0 GPA. I had a 3.85 GPA on a 4.0 scale. On a true 4.0 scale. I was a good student. I could have went anywhere I wanted to go. And so I was looking at UCs, and I remember him really trying to push me to go to Santa Cruz. I wasn't really feeling the idea of Santa Cruz, but it was something that was on the radar. Then there was UC Davis. Then there was Chico State. They had this music industry program. Me and my brother musicians. Right. So I was looking at that. And then I got selected for this program called Boys State, now called Boys and Girls State, and it was at Sac State during my junior year. So I came here for a week, lived in the residence hall, went to the state capitol, ran for different for a position in the competition, the thing that they have for elected role, and at the end of it, the only person I had known who went to school here was my piano teacher. But at the end of it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go to Sac State. And there was nothing that was going to change that in my mind. So my twin brother was like, I'm going to Chico State. And I'm like, I'm going to Sac State.
So that was the point where separation could happen.
Yeah, but his separation was going to happen. And then so I said, all right, you do you, man. Hey, best of luck, brother. I mean, just because we're twins doesn't mean we have to go to the same school.
Was that... Even though we saying it, was that the hardest thing you guys have tried to do, or you guys knew at that point it was time for us to go our separate ways?
No, it was tough. It was tough. Yeah. We were definitely, as a twin. I don't want to use the word codependent because that sounds like a negative thing, but we were commingled. Yeah. Right. Our lives were intertwined.
Whether you like it. And I'm a twin, but it's the same thing. It's like it was just wearing activities together, same group of people, or you look out for her, vice versa, or you can do things vice versa. It's how you grew up, right? This is how it is. So separating, and it's fun. I stayed a year after. I stayed in junior college 2 years. She stayed 1 year and left before I went back down south, and she was already down south, which is crazy, right? She goes to Alabama, then I go to Mississippi. So now we're like 5 hours away instead of having these. But it was just something that she was ready to do. It was time for us to go. But it was like, all right, I see you. But that separation did bring us together onto our adulthood. It's like, okay, now we're still best friends. We're related, but that's like, But I definitely can see how that could be tough first. Then go, hey, all right. But we still, we talked all the time, so that's definitely cool, man.
Yeah,
definitely dope. So you get to Sac State.
Oh, so what happened is, I said I'm going to Sac State. Yep. He said he's going to Chico, and then at the very last minute, he said I'm gonna go ahead and go to Sac State with you.
Bro say, I don't know about that, man.
And I think he would tell you that was the best decision he ever made. So we went here, nice. Jenkins Hall. We lived in the residence hall together in the same dorm room, right?
I mean, I was gonna say anyway. I'm sure y'all like stay together, but I mean,
Yeah, and you know, we fought like
Yeah.
every day. I mean, we're brothers, right? And we weren't used to being like in a college environment. You got to be like very careful like this. You know,
right.
we're brothers. So,
Right.
So they invited us after our first year in the residence halls to not come back because we got in so many arguments with one another. I would say they kicked us out, but they just invited us to not come back.
Right.
So,
That's funny.
and so yeah, he went to school here. He got a degree in political science here.
Nice.
He met his wife here. I went to school here. I got my degree in ethnic studies and political science. I met my wife here. You know, we've lived parallel lives.
I read something about, I think, child development somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my undergrad in child development and family studies.
Oh, really?
As well, yeah. So that's where I started out in general. Like, that's where I got my undergrad. Even when I go up in church, we talked about it, right? Go up in churches.
Oh, yeah.
I'm always around kids. You know, I worked around kids, and then I realized being a black male, but I'm trying to be a mentor, all that. But I was like, I like working with kids. So I went to undergraduate, got my undergraduate degree in child development and family studies. So I was teaching a little bit, kindergarten, third grade, did all that stuff. But then just that atmosphere for me, and I was like, another child development guy? Okay, yes. It's not for everybody, but it always was walking in classrooms, kids that see a dude, they're like, it was the best thing for the kids, but we got all the, you know, they respected me. It was fun. It was interactive. I get to their level, and it was a different type of engagement for me, man. It was passionate, but it was a love to see younger students look up to me, but also I can influence them in a positive way, and they can see somebody like them, man. That was one of the biggest things too, right? They don't see a black male teachers anyway, but especially at that level, we walk in the classroom, they're like,
never do.
They're like, oh my god, like it was the best thing going on.
But think about the healthy development that promotes. So my master's is in child development. Yep. So, and my wife is a professor of child and family development at San Diego State.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that field is definitely. I mean, it's a special field, man. And our youth, as we know, our young little ones need to see positive stuff too in that aspect too, man. Come with it, bro. With Sac State, get asked not to come back to the dorm, but just overall experience in Sacramento. How was that just for you, man? Coming from where up there, just coming here. Of course, a little bigger. Not LA, as people say, California, LA. No, but
I mean, there was more people in the residence halls than was my whole town.
So top, right?
So it was a lot. It was overwhelming, but I remember it was during my first year on campus. I was walking on campus and I saw this taller, darker skinned black male approaching me. Professor. Mm-hmm. He walks up to me and he says, "What's up, black man?" I was like, "Huh? Is he talking to me?" Or what? I was like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "My name is Cecil Canton. I'm a professor of criminal justice. And I just want you to know that if you ever need anything, I mean anything, you come and talk to me." And I was like, you hear people say things like that, right?
Yeah.
It's usually like very performative. Like they don't mean that crap. But he meant it. I mean, anything that I ever needed, like any event that I was hosting on campus, anytime I needed a conversation, I needed support, no matter what it was, I mean, he was there. And he was in the black community tradition, there's other mothering and other fathering, right? Like he was my other father while I was in college.
I can hear in the way of the voice you said it, like he was just like, hey.
Yeah.
And just being knowledge one on a campus full of, different diversity, but also coming from where you came from, you probably weren't acknowledged at all like that, right?
Yeah.
And another impactful moment, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was transformative. In fact, I had lunch with him yesterday. Like he's he'll always be part of my journey, and he always gives the best advice. He doesn't always tell me what I want to hear. Mm-hmm. He tells me what I need to hear.
Those are the ones like say you can take that criticism, but he can give it to you. Let's give it to you straight, right?
Yeah.
Give it to you straight.
With the best of intentions. And so I had a great experience. I basically took a lot of Black Studies classes. Mm-hmm. That was important and impactful for me. Did a lot of political science classes, and was in student government. I'm in a fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, 06. Just had a pretty amazing experience here. Now, it wasn't always easy.
Of course not.
I struggle with food insecurity, housing insecurity, because when I was in college, my adopted father, he ended up getting arrested. He went to prison. Mm-hmm. He ended up, and I spent a lot of time during college visiting in prisons. Mm-hmm. So I would go sometimes 2 days, sometimes 3 days at a time without eating. Yeah. That was the thing is, like, people don't understand. Like, we talk about basic needs. Like, they didn't have food pantries and clothing closets and stuff like that back then. Like, you just did it.
You did without, or
you scrounged up change off the ground.
Or you either ask somebody next door. You got, like, say we talked about it. You got bread, I got meat, but I got no bread. You know what I'm saying? Like that. You had to come together, find a way to scrounge up coins to go get a dollar sandwich.
Yeah.
Go get something like that. And it's survival of the fittest, right? You're trying to survive.
Yeah.
Even though people may think you're in college, kid. Yeah, but it's a lot more that goes behind the scenes to try to make it, man. But
yeah,
that's definitely something. And shout out to the professor again, man, speaking life into you early on and being that impact that got you, that catapulted, man.
But you know, one of the things that stands out to me, and this is one of the reasons I'm so invested in our foster youth, or those who've been part of system impacted, those who've either been impacted by prison or impacted by the foster system, is in when I got to college, I was on this journey to try to find my mother. And so I didn't make a lot of money because I was in student government. That was my job. And so I get $80 a month. That was it. That's how I lived off $80 a month. And I would basically put that money away. And then after like 6 or 7 months, I ended up getting about $150 that I had saved up, which was enough to basically hire this private investigator to try to find my biological mother for me. So I had spent my entire life trying to find her, like looking on the internet, U.S. search, all these different things. Could never find her. I pay this lady $150. She calls me back the next day. I found your mother, I found your uncle, and I found your sister.
For $150.
$150.
Everybody.
Like that.
Everybody.
Yeah. And then so then that was like its own journey in itself. So
your initial reaction when you got just that phone call of I found them, what was it? Is it numb? Were you nervous, excited?
Nervous and excited because I didn't know what to expect and I didn't know how she would respond. Would she be excited to see me? Mm-hmm. Would she be embarrassed to see me? Would she be angry that I was bothering her? I didn't know. And I didn't have a good phone number. I just had an address.
So you had to physically try to go and pop up.
Yeah.
Not knowing that.
I had to go pop up. And I knew that she struggled, again, with drugs.
Right.
I knew she struggled with schizophrenia. Mm-hmm. And so I had to figure out, okay, so what am I going to do? So I found out, though, that she lived in the Tenderloin in San Francisco. And she lived in this apartment complex that basically, if you've ever seen folks, this may be dated for other folks here, but you'll remember NYPD Blue, and they used to go into those like crack houses, right? That's what it looked like. So I get my girlfriend, now wife, and we drive down there in this little beater car that we have, and I go into this place, and I was scared to even walk inside because this place was like it was scary, but I just knew that she was there. So go up to the second floor to basically go see her. And then start walking down this hallway. It's like dark and like there's holes in the wall and like, you know, bags and shit in the wall. I mean, it was pretty scary. So I get down to the door that's hers, and I knock on the door, and no response at first. I knock again, and then she opens the door. And for the first time in my life, I'm 22 years old, I see my mother for the first time, my biological mother. And I immediately see myself in her. Immediately.
Crazy.
And I said, "Hi, my name is Luke. I'm your son. And you're my mother. And I was adopted." And she looks at me and she screams at the top of her lungs, just blood-curdling scream, and slams the door. And she did it so violently and so viciously, I thought she was going for a gun. So me and my girlfriend, now wife, start running down the hall as fast as we can because we think that she's coming after us. And get downstairs, get outside, try to find the car. But it was an amazing experience. The minute that I walked outside, it was like a physical weight had been lifted off my body.
Oh, okay.
And the weight was like in this whole time of my life, I'm like, who gives away their son? Who gives away their child? But then when I saw her for the first time, I realized that she couldn't have taken care of us and that I had been better off growing up the way that I had. And I was a transformative healing experience.
Even in that short moment. However, reaction, like that was, you can't even explain it. That time frame right there, that reaction still lets you know, like, okay, you know what, I understand why now.
Yeah.
Because if I was to be in this situation, you would not possibly be around, not,
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
that reality, right? Like,
wouldn't have made it.
it wouldn't have been, couldn't have, I mean, and we may have, but it made different. So this story would be totally different.
That'd be true. So maybe I would have.
But it'd be totally different. You could be talking about something different, doing something else. But even that right there, man, that's just a major. And you're 22 is able to process everything.
Yeah.
I want a reaction. Like, I want to talk to her, but not, can't, because now I might be afraid for my life or my girlfriend's life at the time. Man, that's a major, and I'm sure you're one of many stories like that too. I'm sure it's a lot of kids and a lot of people who go through life figuring stuff out like that, or going through those experiences.
And that's one of the things I hear when I talk to our foster youth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of them end up finding family members during college, and that's one of the things I've had a lot of foster youth come to me as they're navigating that experience for the first time, and I can talk them through that.
Relatable.
And that doesn't mean I know what to say,
mm-hmm.
but I just know that someone just needs to listen.
True.
So I went back to go see her though. So about 6 months later, I was like, I got up the courage to go back. And courage, because I was like, I thought she was going to kill me, but then at the same time, I'm like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't it, right? Yeah. So we drove back down, and we go back up, into this apartment thing, and go down the same place, walk down, and I knock on the door again. And I say, and she opens the door, and I say, hey, my name is Luke. I'm your son. And she goes like this. She looks at me, she goes, I thought you were. And then just closes the door. Doesn't slam it, doesn't scream.
Second time a little better.
And so then I was like, okay,
she knows
that was okay. That was semi-positive,
yeah,
right?
For sure.
So I pull out a piece of paper and I write on it, do I have any other siblings? And I slip it underneath the door. And I wait a few moments, and then the paper gets slipped back under, and it just says yes. And I was like, okay, I better ask more complex questions, or else this is not going to go anywhere, right?
So she gave me something back, though.
She gave me something back. So then I said, what are their names? Where were they born? I slipped it under, and then she slipped it back under with some names and hospitals that she thought that they were born at. None of it was accurate because, again, her mental health had declined. But she was trying to respond. And then I asked a couple more questions. So it went back and forth maybe 2 more times. And then I tried to slip it back under one last time, and she never responded.
Yeah, but at least you got a couple things, a little different response, but still.
It was the only positive interaction I ever had with her. And I know that sounds like I'm saying that in a negative way, but it was actually very meaningful to me, because she tried, but she couldn't. So then I'm like, okay, well, maybe if I go back, I can do that again. I can recreate that situation and maybe be able to do that. So I went back one last time, maybe about a year after that. And so I go into the place, knock on the door, and no response. So she wasn't there. And so then I went out into the Tenderloin. A lot of folks, as you know, are homeless in that area, living on the streets. And I'm just walking around and asking, does anybody know her? And and I finally found somebody who knew her. They said, oh yeah, you mean the bag lady? I was like, yeah, okay. I said, why do you call her the bag lady? He says, oh man, she's smart. Remember they had even said that in the social work paperwork. She's smart. We call her the bag lady because she always has a bag full of books. I said, well, what do you mean? So every morning, apparently, she would go to the law library, which was only a handful of blocks away. She would go in, she'd get a bag full of new books, and then she would go back to her apartment and she would read all day, all night long. And then she'd go back the next morning and do it. And she would do it over and over and over and over again. And then so I went to, I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting, right? That's powerful. And then so I went back one more time to see if she was in there, knocked on the door. She opened the door, and she was coughing. And there was just blood coming out of her mouth. And I just remember her doing, just like the first time, this blood-curdling scream at the top of her lungs that was just scary as all could be. She slammed the door in my face, and that was the last time I ever saw her.
Man.
So I go off to college. and I go to or I'm not about college, but my PhD program at Arizona State, finishing my PhD program. And as mentioned, my adoptive father, he was in prison. So, and he's struggling with Alzheimer's, dementia, and so I go home to Sacramento, where my mom is, because I want to be with my mom. She's because and it's his final days. She can't see him, but it was his final days, and he passes, and it was a tough thing. And so he passes, and then that same day, I'm in the house with her and just trying to console her, and the phone rings for me. And I'm thinking, like, how am I live in Arizona. How am I getting a call at my mother's house in Sacramento?
Somebody tracked you down.
Somebody tracked me down. So I go and I pick up the phone, and it said, "Hi, this is so-and-so. I'm the coroner in San Francisco. And I'm calling you to let you know that your mother has died." And I said, "Well, how did she die?" They said that, well, she died of a heart attack. I was like, "Oh man, that's terrible." I said, "Well, where did she die?" It said she died on the steps of the law library with a bag full of books.
Still learning, still reading.
Yeah.
Carrying them books, man. Wow. That was in you then. There's no other choice, like just education and knowledge and stuff.
And knowledge,
just the pursuit
but advocating for students who are foster youth.
Yeah, man.
Advocating for folks who've been incarcerated.
Multiple avenues of ways to just connect and support others and give people resources, man. That's amazing though. But then you can see the drive. That's why the drive is out. And that, again, perfect segue, right? Like pursuing higher education, come to school here. What leads you back? What's appealing about coming back? So eventually you have to apply. I'm not sure how it works with you trying to get president jobs in college at universities.
Oh, it's crazy.
That process works, right? But when you see that, is it a hiring type thing that goes on, or when you initially see Sac State position come across your face, what goes on?
So this job was meant for me, and I believe, put on this earth to be in this role, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So when I was a sophomore in college, I was in student government. It was very critical of like how campus was run because, back then the black male 4-year graduation rate was 4%. Now it's only 10.5, right? So like we've got a long ways to go to get to where we need to be as an institution. And I was critical, but critical in a way where I saw all the good that Sacramento State has to offer and recognized that we could go further than we were.
Saw it back then.
Yeah, I saw it. And so my sophomore year of college, everyone who knew me, I would tell them, I'm going to be the president of Sacramento State. And so you could go out into the community, you can find 100 people to this day who are like, I remember when you said that you were going to be the president, because I was obnoxious about telling people about it.
Spoke into existence.
Yeah. And so the truth is, I have been working my entire life to reach this point.
Yeah.
And so when the position opened up, I had actually was a vice president at San Diego State, and I had actually decided to return to the faculty, as I call it, stepping forward to the faculty, because I always say that that going into the classroom should never be viewed as a step back or a retreat.
Yep.
But I was stepping forward to the faculty because I had, experience in administration and was ready to continue doing the good research that we were doing, focus on school suspensions, focusing primarily here in Sacramento. And because Sacramento's got the worst suspension schools in the state of California. And so, I basically had made this decision to step forward to the faculty, and then President Nelson announced his retirement. And when a man makes plan, God smiles. And I knew that when that position posted, I knew that I was going to be in this role. Yeah, so I applied, and it's pretty rigorous. It's an extensively rigorous process. Yeah. You do a screening interview. You do an interview with the committee, background checks, interview with the chancellor, the head of the board, the head of the search committee, another interview with all the trustees. I mean, the vetting is extensive, as it should be for a position of this nature. And I have to say that I knew throughout the entire experience, I knew that it was going to going to be my role. Now, one of the things I'd mentioned is that, my experience here wasn't all good either. My senior year, when I was in school here, there was a lot of students who had concerns about the Black community and what was happening then. There was a lot of administrators who were Black who were being let go. We didn't have any representation in the administration. Student success wasn't high for our Black student community. And so I had been part of a team that had been organizing to basically hold the institution accountable and to do more for our Black community. And we had marches, protests, sit-ins on campus, lots of it. I was part of a team of 3 people who were organizing that. And long story short, I won't go into all the detail, but basically, we were creating so much push for this effort in a positive way that the campus administration didn't respond well. Instead of wanting to meet with us and to create a better experience, they tried to criminalize us. And I was actually recommended for expulsion from Sacramento State.
Come back full circle.
And we had a list of, some people call it list of demands, I say list of requests that we had. Hire more Black administrators, more support for programs like Cooper Woodson College, which supports our Black and African American students, more support for EOP, things like that we knew would help. And we had this list of things that we were advocating for, but then being recommended for expulsion. And then really, it was only at the very last minute that somebody came through and basically, told the truth about what was really happening, that we were able to graduate. I had one class left and I almost didn't graduate. And so that was a very trying experience, a very tough experience. And so I always told myself that if I came back, I had to come back to the campus and not forget who I was, right? Because too often people get in these roles and they forget the struggles that they've had. So every single interview I had for this position, I printed out that list of demands from when I was a kid. I folded it up and I had it in this front pocket over my heart, so that every single interview I'd remember where I came from and what I came here to do. And I came here to make it so that every single student has the opportunity to walk across the stage, because otherwise we're sending a false promise to a community that needs it.
That's dope. And relatable. Been there, done that. It's different when you come from the same environment. Like, you've been here, you've seen what it was, and you're changing it. It takes courage. It takes a lot of courage, a lot of guts to stand on, as everybody says now, stand on your business and stand on principles, but no matter what, especially in a role like this. So shout outs to you, man, and the families, and like I said, the parents who helped you along the way, the teachers. Definitely, I know, again, you got a busy day ahead of you, but at the end of every show, I also want to, like basketball, right? Triple threat is dribble, pass, or shoot, right? But for you personally, though, so outside people that already know you, I always ask my guests, what is your triple threat? Like 3 things. Now, since I'm going to give you either way. You can put it for Sac State, 3 things you want people to know about Sac State that they stand on, or just about yourself. Give me your triple threat, 3 things that you can hang your hat on, how you hold yourself accountable, whatever it is that you want people to know about you, yourself, or the school, the organization that you're working with right now.
Okay, how about I do quick response and give you both?
Yep, that's what would be better.
So triple threat for Sac State. 1, we have a campus with faculty members who truly care. We have one of the best power engineering programs in the country.
Okay.
Not in the state, in the country. And because of our proximity to the Capitol, we have an influence on politics and economy in a way that nobody else can have. I oftentimes tell people we're the one and only public university in the state capital of the 5th largest economy in the world. What we do here can truly transform and change the world in a way that very few institutions can say.
Impactful for sure.
3 things about me, my triple threat. 1, my wife is an amazing, talented person. She is a professor at San Diego State. She just got tenure. She's going on her sabbatical. She does great research focused on Black children and early childhood education. Just some transformative work that tries to create dignity for our young children. The second thing I would say about me that's important is faith. So, I'm a Christian. Obviously I believe in God. I've been on this tour, doing these listening tours. I've been going to different churches in Sacramento, just hearing about what our faith community wants, and it's been really powerful and enlightening, and also recognizing that we got some work to do. We got some bridges to build. We got some bridges to rebuild.
For sure.
And then the third thing about me, and I would say that this is what centers me and keeps me focused and strong, is that I'm also an amateur boxer, and I still do it.
I saw that couple of clips. You just got back in the ring, and I just actually for like 2 months I've been going to Mayweather Gym in Elk Grove.
Yeah,
not major boxing. I'm just going working out, but it's different. But that's so you're in there going.
Yeah, I like to get in the ring. I try to spar at least once a week.
Yeah.
I got to see yesterday one of our Sac State graduates graduated in kinesiology in 2020, Kevin Montano.
Mm-hmm.
He's a professional boxer, 4-0. He actually represented the country as an Olympic alternate, right?
That's still
for
big.
Boxing. It's amazing.
That's crazy.
And he's got a fight coming up on January 20th at the DoubleTree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna support him.
That's nice.
But part of what I recognize with boxing is that if you think about the demographic of folks who are in a boxing gym, it's typically low income, black and brown
fighters,
first gen, right? People who are just trying to create a better life for them for their families. But it's also not typically the same group that you would see go to college.
True.
And so,
but that's okay. You can do that.
Well, you can do that, and we're bringing back our boxing team.
I saw that too.
Yeah.
Because why not implement that into the atmosphere, right? Like, why not? Because I'm sure there's a lot of talented boxers on campus.
There's a lot of talented boxers on campus, but there's also a lot of talented boxers in the community who never saw going to college.
You get to go to school. I was gonna say, like sports, basketball. I go to college to play basketball. Come to college and box, but then get education in the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
Come for the boxing, stay for the education.
There you go. I want to believe in a few things though, man. So this is 30 empowering statements, encourage greatness. Shout out to my boy Dwight Taylor, man. He's here local in town. He does a lot of support. I use this as curriculum for my class, but I definitely know, as we know, right, as you talked about their daily meditations, playing the music sometimes. So maybe you don't have a music to play right now. Maybe read one of these. There's a 31. I think there's a 100 statement book out. Dominate your day, man. 30 and powerful statements, man. It's definitely quick, short reads, but daily affirmations, questions for yourself. But it's dope, man. Simple but effective. Like I said, I've been using my curriculum for my college courses, man, for the kids, and you can learn about yourself and others about it. Just simple questions and reading, man. But it's definitely something that's I believe is impactful. I got to shout out my guy. We've been rocking for years now, but it's definitely something I love, and everybody I take it to when he presents. If later on down the line, if you need somebody to come, he did his 100, I think it was like a young men's thing here last year. He does it every year. He did it last year in May, where all like 100 gentlemen from high schools come around and just support each other. He has classes we did in the well last year. It's super dope. They have empowering statements as far as activities, group learning. It's 100 young men from the city just coming, interacting. Nothing goes down. It's all positive, guest speakers, energy. So he's doing it again this year, ramping up for it. But
that's
amazing. Got a connection with him, man, as well.
Yeah, Dwight Taylor.
Yeah, definitely somebody you can tap in with, man. Good,
man, just the first one I opened actually speaks to me. It says, "Storms in your life don't come to break you; they come to shape you."
Definitely,
Damn.
It's all meaningful. It's impactful right there. It's questions at the end, little short reads. And definitely brought some gear, man. You know the motto: we stay applying pressure. How to get the custom for the president, man. Throw the hoodies on, long sleeve T-shirts for the wintertime. In Sac, the green, the colors, man. But again, I really appreciate you taking time out your day. And best of luck. Like I said, I know it's a daily task, right? It's a daily walk in your journey. But also, like you said, it's different when it means something to you, or you know it's meant for you. We can walk different in it. I mean, I pray every day that people find their passion and get to walk in it. Because, you know, as males, it's hard for us to get to that or to find that spot, or we don't quit other things until we find what we want to get to. That's just the reality. I've learned that until we get to what we really kind of want, other stuff is not going to be prioritized. That's just how we move. But if we find it, man, it's definitely a blessing. And to see the aura, so you walk in, the green, you guys got to see the get up, man. The customer's joints, the custom shoe, the suit, fitted up, man, representing the school well, but also the city of Sacramento. I mean, that's your face on billboards. Yeah, man, it's home for me too. I love it. Representing it well, man. So I definitely appreciate your time, man. Again, you heard it here first. We're live at Sac State at the Wellness Center with the president. And again, thank you for your time. I definitely hope to be in contact soon and contact each other offline for some other stuff working on. Appreciate your time, man. You heard it here first. 94 Feet with Coach JT and the Prez. We out. Peace. Yeah.
Each drizzle made a slap, they gon' keep spinning.
You were sitting down with the best. It's 94 feet, nothing more, nothing less. Started from the bottom, now I made it past the steps. But you gotta have a vision like, what's your triple threat? 94 feet with Coach JT. 94 feet with Coach JT. 94 feet with Coach JT. 94 feet.